Hi, I'm gonna show you around again a few little things from class to make sure you have a way to remember this stuff. So let's start with a classic tween. Now, I'm going to take the rectangle tool and I'm going to draw a little rectangle right here. I'm going to select it. Now, you may remember a classic tween cannot use a shape like that. That's a shape. Now, what it's not is a symbol or a symbol instance. And it needs to be used in a classic tween. So what I'm going to do is just go modify, look at this, convert to symbol. I'll call this guy square. And right at the moment I'm perfectly happy with it being a graphic. Okay? And remember, this is a way that you can actually say where the registration point is, like upper left-hand corner, lower right-hand corner, or dead center. So dead center is a good choice. Okay. Now, you can see that this out here now has a little blue line around it. Oops, you know what we left behind? We didn't have the stroke around the outside selected, so I'll just delete it out of there. I don't really need it. So this thing is the symbol instance. This thing over here in the library is the original symbol itself. Okay, this is the symbol. This is an instance. Now, in terms of a classic tween, well, I'm just going to put it someplace like this. And I'm going to decide how long I want the trip to be for this, because basically a classic tween is pretty much about moving the object somewhere. I'll say I'd like it to take 40 frames, so I'm clicking down here on frame 40, and as you probably remember perfectly well, F6 establishes a keyframe at that spot. Now remember, a keyframe is usually a place where something should be different. So the difference in this case is that this thing is going to be way over here. All right? So in frame 1, it's here. In frame 40, it's here. Got to remember to check the timeline a lot when you're working with stuff like this. Now, somewhere in between in the timeline, and literally it would be fine to click any old place in here, I can just go Insert Classic Tween. And several things are different. First, if I hit enter, I can see it making the journey here, right? We see it driving along there. Also, if you look down here at the timeline, you can see this sort of light blue color filling the area between the two keyframes, and it's got a little arrow running through it. That's indicative of a classic tween. All right, and some of the other things that we've talked about in class are pretty simple little additions to this, but things like rotation, if this thing should rotate as it travels, well, you need to select inside the tween. That'll bring up on the Properties panel over here the simple option to rotate. And you can just tell it which way you'd like it to rotate, clockwise or counterclockwise. So I chose clockwise, and now it's rotating. Remember that I can also do things like the easing control right here, right? Which is also a function of the tween and not just like the symbol instance. If I click on easing and I type in a value like 100, and we tend to stick to these extremes on this just to make a point. You can do smaller numbers in between, for example, but just get a little less dramatic response. Now, you saw what was different, right? It's slowing down at the end. So this is useful for things like a parking car, a landing rocket ship, that sort of thing. And if I simply get in there and switch it, instead of 100, it's minus 100, then you can see the difference is it's having a little trouble getting started, and then it goes faster. So these are just means to the end of making it travel at a non-consistent rate of speed, because very little in nature will do that. All right, I'm going to keep this relatively short for now, so that's how to do a classic tween, and I'll be back with some others pretty quick.